Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for tuning it in / checking it out. Or if you've seen me before, you know we just chill around here. Not much to talk about today, but glad you're here. If you are with me, that is. As of current, still no viewers, so we will find out what's on the agenda as we go, I suppose. But let's get right into, maybe I could start off with how well lit my background is. Been thinking about getting a green screen just to impress you guys, impress the world. But as for now, I think this looks pretty good, no? If I look in the right direction. We got more daylight wattage coming from that side. Partially blinded, but I can block that out or try my best. It's show business. I've always wanted to do this. I wanted to do this for a while anyway. And so I'm glad we're up and at it. And my intro is so huge, I feel like I have to greet everybody so energetically or effusively is what I was going to say. But part of the show is I always ask how you're doing, and if that's good enough or not, but for y'all, I'm doing all right. I think I'm in a constant state of, you know, it's like when guys put on their Facebook profile when Facebook came out, when guys were okay with just being single. I was like, he's so cool. How could he? So I hope you're doing okay as well. And then we have that segment where I think it's morphing, where one takes a deep breath, and that will 100% of the time be me, but you can always jump in and partake if you like. So maybe we won't do it right now, and I'll find a spot to do it, seeing as I have nothing to talk about except the last 7 days that went by. Yeah, I didn't really go out much or talk to anybody, in the strange world besides what my job entails, which is a fair amount of chit-chat. If I'm honest, and I wouldn't want to lie about that, it is kind of a cool job in that regard, driving taxi, as I like to put it. Sort of sounds more like it can come out of a Tom Waits song. So, but beyond that, and I've been doing a little bit of that, but beyond that, listen, it's not me who starts the conversations anymore. I've been driving enough where you like to, one good reason to have this camera as a side note, in the middle of the screen as opposed to down. I like it down because it covers up some of my terrible features, and we could talk more about that if we want, but I did address it last week. One downside is I feel like my eyes aren't open enough, and the lights are blinding enough, if I'm honest. Let's pretend like I'm already used to them, but it doesn't make it any easier when the camera's down. I feel like I gotta lean back, which is all right, cool as well. And I sort of cross my arms to keep my my back happy. Even though we only go for about 45 minutes, it can take a toll on anyone, my age anyway. Okay. But yeah, going about my week, where was I? Just trying to stay busy. I don't know. Let's try not to say so much, but you want to keep yourself distracted, especially during these times, right? But oops, let's take shots when I do, huh? Your game is also my game. I don't know how to say that. But so yeah, so going throughout, making it throughout the week, I suppose you could say I do stuff, but everybody does stuff. I like to tell tales about little stories or what about something that was insanely boring that we can both sort of share together. You know, it's boring, but it's a unique experience. Everything's sort of a unique experience. But now that we're crossing over into the next year, it starts to lose its shine or what. But you do still try and make something of it. I still do anyway. And none of these conversations I'm having are necessarily new or different. And I always try and throw some spark in there for me, which means another level, a deeper level of honesty with these people, with the common folk that I drive. I mean, the reality is everybody's wealthier than me, so it's a privilege to talk to any of them. And I should always be aware of that. But yeah, so I did some stuff, I suppose you could say, trying to keep myself busy. And that's right, I remember where I was, because it also takes away from bad habits that I, get immersed in or can get immersed in. And by that I mean, I just showed you one earlier. I suppose we could talk about my sugar intake, but there's cigarettes as well. And staying busy, keeping your limbs moving, keeps you young and your attention on other things besides yourself, right? I should probably smoke more weed, and that way I'll want to just... That can't be good, can it? Did a little bit of talking to family. And as far as last podcast transferring over into this one, I'm sort of ashamed to say that I carry the same look that I have throughout previous episodes, and the reality is I'm always a bearded guy, in case you need reminding, but I've only mentioned it once, I think, so I'm always usually covering up all my terrible features as much as possible. As they say, I think, I've heard it before, a beard is a man's makeup. So that is something, and I noticed I'm blinking because of the lights too now, with extra lighting, but I'll get used to it. But yeah, so I just wanted to say, not necessarily a move of passive aggression, just because I didn't show up 100%. I could be wearing a mask, that covers up all my bad features as well. But anyway, or negative features. Anyway, so you like to stay busy, and I don't really want to get into necessarily things that I'm doing that are fun, but because I didn't go to the park, because I'm not talking to people outside in the outside world, so to do anything that I do is somewhat meaningless. But if it needs explaining in 10 words or less, I'm setting up a little bit of a basketball court in the alleyway. I feel like if the wrong people see this and see that it makes me happy, I feel like I have some charm, and it's complicated. I think it gets recognized, but, I'm always careful about, as you should be, about everything I do, and you don't want to piss anybody off, including stuff like this. I mean, one of the reasons you have no friends, I have no friends, one of the reasons you have no friends is because your success reflects terribly upon them. So I had a couple people tell me I was happy this week. And I mean, whenever I talk about other people, I like to explain just who they were that I was talking to. But we already went over it. And I think maybe they are noticing something, because that's 2 people in 1 week. And I mentioned earlier about sort of always staying at this same wavelength. And that's partially why I'm recording the podcast too. I forgot to mention, I'd like to be able to look back on this and see that I was at this, buzzing at this, on this level. I'm not going to say wavelength again. So, but yeah, I'm not sure how much they, oops, there I go with the UH word. Time to pour my last one. And maybe get something going here as well, because, now would be a great time for that deep breath segment I love to do. Oh, there it was. It came naturally. I didn't know it was coming. Right on time. Ooh, this is going to be disgusting. Add a little, I'd like to call it, let's not give the brand of the chaser I use, unless you could see it there. Well, you can hear it. It's a soda can. And it's green and clear fluid. How about that? So, not enough chaser in this one. I think I only got about that much in, which is about half, maybe a tiny bit more. See how this goes down. Excuse me if you would, please. Rough, but I knew it was going to be, so I should have acted cooler. The trick with this stuff, kiddos, in case you haven't learned, and I only learned like 3 years ago, so happy to share, is you're definitely not supposed to breathe in or out through your nose or something. I just made that terrible on myself for no reason. Certainly not entertainment value, because I'm sure that doesn't really translate. You don't know me. If this is your first podcast, that wasn't funny at all, is what I mean. But anyway, so yeah, maybe I am, but it's because I'm doing something new, and to build a court is also to get away from the social pressure of continuing to go to the same courts and meet fresh faces or see old faces, more importantly. I like to have time off, time to myself. I noticed I make a few shots even when I'm all by myself shooting and nobody is possibly looking, nobody can possibly see me. I still make a few baskets, which is nice. And the downside is, as I said, it was in an alleyway. The downside would be that I don't get to practice. Okay, I'll excuse myself twice on those 2 burps, but then no more excuse me's. Because I haven't gotten to anything entertaining yet. So I just can't take, being an alleyway, I can't take the long shot. So you'll always have to, little Brado potato, you'll always have to go to the, I realize it's the first time I probably said that, nickname from my childhood. I'll always have to go to the courts and grow up. Pretend to be an adult out there. So what else? Kind of excited about that, but we'll just steamroll into the next thing. I didn't tell you guys this yet, I don't think, so might as well get it out there, and then we could be entertaining, possibly. It's rough. I don't want to share it. I'm learning Spanish and I'm not learning hard enough. So there is some regret there. We talked a tiny bit about this several podcasts ago. But I haven't mentioned, I don't think, that I am practicing. You also want to I want to just soak it up from the regular world. So you also want to just take it in from natural resources, if I can say that. So not practicing enough is a terrible thing, but I also don't spend my time watching Amazon Prime or Netflix at all. So it would be cool if a lot more people, or I suppose I could reword this. It would be cool if a lot more people on Instagram were doing Spanish lessons. Hey, I don't spend too much time on that stuff either, but I spend it enough, definitely. Speaking of bad habits, what else? I like this to be an uplifting podcast, so I'm not going to mention that about anything about my finances, but we should be getting checks from the government. This is the first time in a gajillion years that the government ever sent the regular people checks, so that's nice. That's different. We should be getting our checks in about a month or something like that. This would be, I believe, this will be like the third one. It's a crazy time we live in. You have a social security number, you get money during these difficult times on the economy. But trying to keep up with it. So I do have something to say about that. The passenger requests to get Uber rides have really fallen. It's bad out there. And the COVID statistics are, I'm overthinking. I need to get drunker. I didn't want to say coronavirus or COVID, and I've thought previously to recording this podcast, I thought, you know what I could do? I could just mispronounce them every time and keep it interesting. Hey, I already mentioned the checks and stuff. I think I've already gone too far talking about this stuff. Everybody talks about it. I suppose it's almost an addition to my journal at this point, especially because, as far as I know, nobody's tuned in yet. I feel like my energy level could be higher. Recording this a little bit late tonight, as far as when I usually do on schedule or whatever. It's past your children's bedtime. So, and I suppose I did a little bit of work today, not too much. I'm talking about manual labor, not putting my foot against the pedal. Anyway, let's see. Was I going anywhere? Yes, less than normal frequency of Uber ride requests as the COVID statistics are dropping back down, heading towards the normal range where it used to be, which was the first wave here in big city land. I suppose it's happening to every big city. So anyway, it's interesting because we're definitely at the lowest level. I'm struggling out there, keeping my morale up while you sit there. I have to take a basketball and dribble on the parking lot while I wait for requests from the airport. And by the way, that takes 45 minutes to an hour or something like that. So my hands got sore, which is a first for me, that's for sure. While dribbling, anyway, I'm sure I annoyed the drivers next to me on both sides. But one of them kept his window up, or he rolled it up and then he rolled it back down. I love the people. And you know what? He happens to have a different skin color. Let's say all the way on the other spectrum, skin tone. So much respect to him. He even tried getting a nap in with his window down, which is like What are we doing? Are we flirting here? So, hats off to cool people. And not that he would ever see this or anything, but I suppose I'll just leave it at that. I'm overexpressing my face, which means I'm not that comfortable. And here goes that sip. If you're drinking, may it be soda, may it be gross alcohol, as one of my inspirations does, Ricky Gervais. I mentioned him before. I'll mention him again because he's probably my favorite, most honest, certainly one of the most honest. Okay, here we go. Sorry about all this in your face this whole time. And that's all we got. I learned that I'm not going to be working tomorrow because, well, probably till, should I do future prediction stuff on here at the risk of hitting nerves? Probably not, You're more sensitive about what you talk about when it comes to the people that are closest to you. I'm talking about less family, less friends, more neighbor stuff, that sort of, and further out sort of stuff. So I won't bother or tease them through the interwebs. May they come across this later at some point, which they never would. In fact, why not drop it? I've been low energy this whole entire show, so I'm expecting to not work till 12 or 1 o'clock tomorrow. There it is, I said it. So I'm going to I'm drinking, and I'm going to do stuff. Just leave it at that while I wait for an appointment. Yeah. An urgent one, apparently. Okay. All right, guys. I got nothing left. They said it, and I got nothing left. Well, how about this? This is going to go down as the show with the most pause breaks. So, sponsors, anybody that wants me to endorse you, now would be a great opportunity. Braden is getting comfortable pausing on a more regular basis. What else? I'd love to dive into, I feel like you're over there whipping me. I'd love to dive into more personal topics if I can before we wrap this thing up, because it's just got to be that time, I suppose. But I don't really have anything going on in terms of my personal life. I said I talked to family. I'm excited about that. I mean, I want to get into it, but there's nothing going on. I almost shouldn't say anything because it's probably the most sensitive topic. I'd rather show you guys my hairy chest or something. Show you how terrible I am at vocabulary. Oh, we could talk about that. The last 2 podcasts I was able to throw out 2 stupid words that prove how dumb I am, and I just wanted to acknowledge it. Maybe tell you guys a little bit about how much schooling I got growing up, how I did. But it's a comedy foul. It's more than just a foul or a lack of intelligence to say that you threw out something whimsically when you meant it. Did I mean it in all seriousness? I can't say for sure. So, yeah, you know what? I was just trying to think as I was talking there. But as it comes to me, yeah, I meant that comment. It was not whimsical or in jest no, it was off the cuff, regular conversation that I realized should probably not be out there even in that context, because I'm sensitive, excuse me for hitting the table, it always rattles the camera. I'm sensitive about what other people do. It's sort of having to like acknowledge your own level of influence, which is not, I insist, is not much, but it's there. When you leave the pack early, it means you want to go, but it also makes the other dogs' ears perk up. Let's say, like, if you don't look back, it's like looking back at explosions. If you don't look back and you leave, everybody looks. They go, where's he going? Everybody. You don't have to make sounds, noises, necessarily. Necessarily, I guess. Doesn't have to be an explosion. But, so going your own way comes at a little bit of a risk. It feels like everybody pays attention, even though they may not. They at least pay attention for the first bit. So I don't like to say anything irresponsible. Here I go, guys, partaking in some more customs from the olden days, just to get a kick here. Oh no, I lost it. For all you audio listeners, and I'm not on any audio platform. So yeah, I hate explaining my jokes whenever I say, hello everybody. When I start off the podcast, for example, doing a lot of hand motion today as well. I hate to always explain the jokes. I was trying not to hit the camera there. All right. And here comes the high, and there it is. Kids, folks, don't do it. That could be weed, but it's just tobacco. Especially don't do it, right? Emphasis on that. I'm not trying to sound smart. I'm just trying to string sentences together. My education was, I was one of those kids that was rushed to finish high school early. So I graduated high school early. That's not a good thing, I realize. Now that somebody else has talked about it on another podcast I watch, I should probably mention it, since we're doing as much disclosure as possible, trying to keep the coal burning in this engine on this one this week. There you go. If I don't seem happy, then we can take back those 2 comments I heard earlier this week. I'm just a regular old normal person, but thank you if you think so. The podcast I was watching was, well, I don't know what podcast it was, but one of my favorite comedians, Annie Letterman. She mentioned how she graduated early, and she didn't say it in the context of meaning that it was a good thing, which means to me that I should probably say the same thing. I always thought I was smart and cool for doing it, for taking my GED or whatever it was. It was actually the California High School Proficiency Exam, which is the same thing essentially, and passing when I was about 15. I was so young. I think that's your beginning year, but I wasn't smart. All that stuff was going to go in one ear and leave immediately. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, I had to look up how to find the diameter when you only have the circumference. Today I did that. I did doing some measurements outside in the alleyway, actually. Ay. Well, for all this acting casual, I'm certainly underperforming, if my matchsticks are burning out on the transfer from the candle to the drugs. Oh no. Oh, do I have any left? Here's a half one. This one had wax on it, so it should burn longer, but that's not the waxy part. Guys, hang in there with me. I apologize here. Just trying to get a bump. That's not going to happen. One more try because I'm desperate, and then we'll get out of here, okay? I think we did good this week in terms of trying to be entertaining. No? One more, guys. This thing is kind of clogged up, so I really have to suck. Here comes a suck joke. Excuse me for hitting the camera again. Just a casual episode this week. All right, well, we practiced that anyway. We'll see if it comes back next week. I didn't come here with any intent to be passive aggressive. I wore sort of a different outfit, sort of a mix up anyway. I noticed I have the same hairstyle. Oops. You gotta unjitter that camera somehow in post editing. So, and I'm all professional with my microphone and stuff. So I don't hate anybody. I'm not disliking this. I was watching podcasts before I got to this. In fact, herself, formerly mentioned Annie Letterman, was on a Whitney Cummings show podcast. Good for you. Check it out if you like it. Personally, I'm not down with all the interrupting, but they talked about that during this episode, which was nice. I'd love to see that sort of quelled or whatever. In terms of the smartest word we came up with this show, I would say quelled is it. And we'll just end on that note, huh? Okay, well, it is hard to keep up your energy when you're just talking to your room, as I am. But we did it. We came through. I'm sure everything will look better. I usually think I did way worse than when I look back on everything, but I'm sure it was just good enough this week. And I think I only have one podcast that sort of was underwhelming, and that was early on. And I told you guys I would never do it again, and I haven't since. So, been doing pretty good. That's not an excuse to do a bad one again, in my eyes. All right, guys. And before I go, just a quick bonus, why not? I just want to throw something at you. The best basketball to buy, because I spent too much. I exploded before. You know, you have the holidays and stuff, and everybody struggles it's a tough year to visit your family and stuff. And I didn't do any visiting any family, and so I had to finally my bubble burst eventually, and I bought a bunch of basketballs. And this is not going to be a basketball heavy podcast. So I insist that, this won't come up when you type basketball in the Google search results, because I won't put any hashtags or keywords in there. But the best basketball you could buy on the market is the college basketball. College level basketball is probably the best ball. If you go with the NBA level one, and I'm not even that much of a player, I'm not at the level to care, but the dry grip, when you just buy the ball, and I haven't even played with it, honestly, so we'll find out more later, but I insist, the college level basketball is the basketball you want to buy. I was supposed to keep that short, so I am. Thanks everybody for checking it out. I can't believe you hung in there with me. If this was your first podcast that you saw, you probably tuned out. But hopefully you already know me a little bit by now. And if you stayed with me, much respect, because I thought I was just skating by, just above board on this one, this whole time. Believe it or not, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, guys, love you. Love you back. And if you hate me, hate you back too. Hate you back too. In fact, it's all the same thing, really. If you ask me, learned that from my biggest influence as of recently, that's for sure. One more time. It's been fun. Have a good week. Peace.